You're raving, you're raving, you're raving with RWR. Fabulous songwriters from Belgium and beyond, the lowlands, the highlands, and far across the pond. On Instagram and Facebook too, you can follow, like, and share. Please hit subscribe and join the tribe from the comfort of your chair. You're raving, you're raving, you're raving with RWR. There we are, folks. Good evening. How are you all doing? Raving with RWR here, number 53 on my YouTube channel, Songs from the RWR Room, dedicated to singer-songwriters from Belgium and beyond. I hope you're all doing fine and well in these strange times. It is Wednesday, the 18th of November. And did you just like me jingle there? The happiest song I ever wrote and probably ever will write again. But there you go. I have to be doing something during these lockdown times. As always, folks, it's great to see you and great to have you with us. Let us know where you're viewing from, and I will maybe stick a comment or two up there on screen and say hello to you as we go along. As always, tonight's show brought to us courtesy of the brilliant people at G-Sharp Guitars, the world's finest travel electric guitars. If it's your first time to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below there. It helps me to do what I do and build the channel and get the songs and the songwriters out there. And of course the PayPal is always there as well. The tip jar is always open if you'd like to somehow or some way trophy shekels in the tip jar. They're always very welcome. Never expected, always delighted to get them. Mickey MacConnell is the guest tonight. There's his website right there. We have a viewer in already while I'm rabbiting on here, while we're getting people into the stream. Hello again, Chris, indeed, from Germany. Great to see you. One of the stalwarts of the program. Lovely to see you. We've got a few live viewers coming in now, so it's great to see you all. Thanks for being here. I think I mentioned all the stuff that's going on. I did. Tommy Bracken from County Offaly. Hello, sir. Great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. So, without further ado, I'm going to go over and see if our mighty guest is here with us. Let's see if Mickey MacConnell is here tonight. Yes, he is. Hello, Mickey MacConnell. How are you doing, sir?
Hello, Dahi. Greetings from the wild west of Ireland, where we're sort of braced for a gale tonight and the rain is falling, and it's the most miserable place on the face of the planet at the moment.
Is it?
But it's good to see you. And
it's rough. It's great to see you too. Thank you for giving us a bit of your time tonight. You're in Listowel, that's correct?
Listowel, North Kerry, yeah.
North Kerry. Where do you hail from originally?
Originally come from a little place called Ballinalek, about 5 miles from Enniskillen in County Fermanagh.
Yeah.
I was the youngest of there was 4 boys and 1 girl. And we grew up on the banks of the River Erne, an idyllic existence, an idyllic boyhood for a young guy. Fermanagh was a lot quieter then. It was the hungry 50s came in. I was born in 47, which would make me the early 70s now. So, yeah, there's a lot of living between since then and now. A
lot of living. You said it makes you around your early 70s. We won't go into details about that for the moment. But I know you celebrated your 70th birthday in the great John B. Keane's pub. I saw that on the YouTube, of course. I'm going to have a song from John B. later on. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing, your teenage years. Was there a lot of music in your family? You have brothers and sisters, all that kind of stuff. Your musical upbringing.
Well, my dad, Sandy, we had a small shop on the banks of the Erne. My mother, Mary, was a school teacher. Dad, Sandy, was an accordion player and a flute player. Not particularly good, but really loved it and passed on the gift. My mother was tone deaf. The only thing she was a fiddle player or a tune, but she was a good poet, and she used to write a lot of poetry. And our house was a Cayley house where there was lots of music, and it was the closest thing to a sort of a bohemian upbringing that you could get in Fermanagh in the 1950s, because it was a very claustrophobic, very country place, and there was a lot of bigotry and sectarianism around. So we embraced the culture, if you like, in the Irish traditional music as a sort of a badge of identity. and it was a tribal thing, almost a planned tribal thing
Yeah.
when we were growing up. And that's where it started, and that's where it sort of all spun from.
Was guitar your first and only instrument, or were you playing traditional Irish instruments as well, Mickey? Or
Well, I started off on tin whistles. Guitar would have been frowned on as the devil's instrument at that time.
yeah,
It was, would not have been greatly appreciated at all.
no,
But started off on tin whistle, and Cahill, Sean, Cormac, and Cormac, another brother, we all started at the same time. And I remember my father started teaching us the song, I think it's a Thomas Moore song, Let Earn Remember. And Cormac got as far as Let Earn Re. I got to the remember bit all right, and Cahill played it straight through. So Cahill and I stuck to the whistles, and then Cahill went on to the flute. So it was one year, I think about 1963, in Gorey, when Cahill and I won 3 All-Irelands. I was intermediate in whistle, Cahill senior whistle and country flute. And we brought back 3 All-Irelands to the one small house in County Fermanagh. And I remember my father being so pleased with this accomplishment.
that's amazing. So there was always singing and there was always tunes in the house.
There was. And my father was a songwriter as well. And he used to write a lot of political songs. They were really parodies. And they were poisonously political. And he would he'd come up with these things, but he'd trot me out, and I was a very small boy, and I'd be trotted out to sing these. What I realised in retrospect were poisonous bits of propaganda that my father was hurling at various targets around. And being a small boy, nobody could visit sort of violence on me, and I used to get away with murder. But it certainly opened my eyes to the power of parody and of irony and of the strength of political verse. And it was a lesson that stood well to me, I think, in later years.
Sure did. I mean, a lot of people, of course, know you as a songwriter, but your background really is in journalism. Did those two things kind of go hand in hand immediately, or were you really focused on the journalistic aspect first, Mickey, before songwriting happened for you, or was it the other way around even?
I think I started writing songs. I writing songs when I was very, very young, maybe 7 or 8, writing sort of little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
But I had a very schizophrenic sort of existence in that journalism was always my main job, and songwriting was sort of the icing on the cake, and playing was the icing on the cake. And because I had a good job in journalism, I never had to depend on songwriting or on singing or performing. So it wasn't until much later in life that I turned to songwriting seriously. And because I had the other job and I wasn't depending on music, I never had to chase the dollar as such. So it meant I wrote songs for myself rather than for the pot.
Yeah.
That's what made them a little bit different from, it took me, it was the 90s before I recorded my first album, and then I did so reluctantly because I never saw music as sort of a real area that I wanted to go into. I was a journalist first and foremost.
So there wasn't really tours or gigs outside of Ireland for you, or did you keep it all sort of within the country?
Not at all. No. I was and still am to an extent a man who plays rock and roll and does all the covers and the Great American Songbook and stuff. So I was never into really the folk circuit thing so much. Then when I moved down to Kerry and settled down here, then I discovered that there was absolutely no music for the over 50s. Plenty of music for the youngsters, but for a night out, there was a whole cohort of people who would like a nice quiet night out with an acoustic session, hearing good music and good songs done well. And that has been my métier since, really. I do the odd folk clubs and folk music sessions just to keep my hand in and to sort of establish the fact that I'm basically a singer-songwriter who does folk music. But basically, I'm a rock and roller.
You are, yeah. Well, speaking of rock and roll or folk and roll or indeed folk music, I mean, you're responsible for one of the biggest folk anthems, I suppose, of my generation anyway. Only Our Rivers Run Free, a massive song for you. Can you tell us a little bit about when you wrote it and what inspired it, Mickey? And you know, just, I know you had it covered by lots of people. Just give us a little bit of an insight to that, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, the genesis of this one is back about 1957. My dad, Sandy, took me to a protest march in Enniskillen. You have to remember, Fermanagh in those days, it was a very claustrophobic political place. Sectarianism. The march was for housing. Catholics were demanding housing. There had been an incident where a Catholic family of about 14 had been refused a house, and it had been given to a single Protestant girl, and that caused outrage in the county. So there was a protest march organised in Enniskillen. Politics on the nationalist side at that stage would have been dominated by the Nationalist Party. So this was long before the days of civil rights and long before IRA or the IRA 50s campaign, and was sort of the Catholics demanding a bit of social justice. It was a perfectly peaceful march. I remember all of the neighbours were out on it, and to make a long story short, it's reasonable. It was flatly charged by the RUC and by the Territorial British Army and by the B Specials. It was the first time I'd ever seen violence up close and personal.
Yeah.
And I remember being terrified. I was a very small boy, I think about 9 or 10 at the time. So we took shelter in the pub doorway, Blake's pub in the Hollow in Enniskillen. And I remember standing there watching all this mayhem going on around me and clutching onto my father's coattails, big long gabardine coat, I remember. And being frightened, I looked up into his face for reassurance. And I saw defeat in my father's eyes. And for a small boy to see defeat in his father's eyes is really a very frightening and sobering thing. And it's something that never left me. It stuck with me, and it still sticks with me to this day. But then some years later, he wasn't well, and there was some suggestion that he mightn't make it. So, in an effort to address that defeat that I saw in his eyes that day, I sat down and I wrote that song. And strangely enough, it arrived unbidden. I think it was the only song that I've ever written that I never changed one note or one word.
Really?
And it was written on a Saturday afternoon in the space of about 40 minutes.
How old were you when you wrote this?
I was born in 47 and the song was written in 65, so it would have left me 17 or 18.
Yeah, amazing. And so, of course, you were singing it just in the folk club scene, and was it Christy Moore himself that heard it and decided to cover it? Or did it come...
I wasn't singing it at all, Dahi.
Oh,
Carol, my brother, who was the flute player with the Boys of the Loch, very well known, established band. Carol sang it in Leeds one night, and Christy was in the company. And Christy rang me. I was working as a reporter in the Irish press, and Christy rang and asked if he could record it on the first Planksty album. And of course, I was only too delighted to have it recorded at all. So Christy recorded it, and because that was in 1971 when that album was released, and because it was released into a time when the civil rights was gathering pace, and because there was supercharged, superheated political atmosphere at the time, the song sort of became adopted by the civil rights movement in a way that I had never seen, that I never imagined that it might. And suddenly it became an anthem for the dispossessed, and went on to achieve an importance and a significance that I, in truth, had not seen when I wrote it originally in 1965.
It's incredible. Great story as well behind it. I'm going to play the song for our listeners and come back and chat you a bit more about it after that, if that's okay. Thanks. So here it is, folks, the wonderful song of Mickey MacConnell, Only Our Rivers Run Free, as you all know. Great song. I'll see you in a few minutes with more chat with Mickey. When apples still grew in November, when blossoms remain on each tree, when leaves are still green in December, it's then that my land will be free. I wander her hills and her valleys, and still to my sorrow I see a land that has never known freedom, where only her rivers run free. And I drink to the death of her manhood, to those men who would rather have died than to live in the cold chains of bondage, to bring back the rights we're denied. Oh, where are you now when we need you? What burns where the flame used to be? Are you gone like the snows of last winter? Will only our rivers run free? Oh, how sweet is life when we're crying. On meadow the wine yet we're dry. How fragrant the rose, but it's dying. How gentle the wind, but it sighs. What good is in youth when you're aging? What joy is in eyes that can see that there's sorrow in sunshine and flowers? If only our rivers run free. If only our rivers run
Drie, twee, één.
There's the rock and roll coming out in you now there. I noticed a bit of guitar lick there at the end there. That was great. An absolutely anthemic song, and a song I've been singing since my teenage years as well, and lovely to... Because we tried to meet on a couple of times. I tried to get Deirdre Gallagher and Owen to bring me down to meet you for a few songs and a drink. It never happened anyway. And then I left Ireland, and then sure, one day I'll come down and haunt you.
Will happen one of those days.
It will indeed. A few comments there about that, I'm sure. Yeah.
You know, it's amazing,
lovely and again.
it's amazing that people think that's a traditional song, and in fact, many of the time, you know, they're amazed when they meet me because I think I've been dead for about 150. And then
You're still alive.
And then they're slightly disappointed that haven't been dead for 150.
No. You know, and even when you are, the songs will live forever, Mickey. That's the main thing. You know, in fairness, all joking aside, that's you know, as a singer-songwriter myself, and a lot of songwriters watch this, to be able to leave behind a song that will pass into the tradition is something amazing, and something you must feel very proud of, and you know, just.
But I have to say, and again, I always say this, it's Lady Luck. It was written at the right time, picked up by Christine Moore at the right time, recorded in the right studio with Phil Coulter at the right time. It came out into the right political atmosphere. Had it been written 10 years earlier, 10 years later, it's quite possible. But it just, Lady Luck smiled on me. And by virtue of the fact that Ireland is not mentioned in the song anywhere, it sort of became a universal sort of anthem for the dispossessed.
Also amazing when you now that you mentioned that, yeah, Ireland is not mentioned in the song at all, and that again, a testament to your great writing and your great penmanship.
I think that was more good luck than guidance.
Was it?
I remember. I remember a great story that's told about. They were organising a civil rights march in Newry, and I think it was the trade union movement was organising it under the banner of sectarianism kills workers, and it drew from both sides of the political divide, both Catholic and Protestant. And they all gathered and had their banners, the trade union banners and the civil rights banners. And the organisers had gathered and they said, okay, what song do we all know in common when we march down the street? And there was such a dichotomy and a divide in Northern society at the time that after about half an hour of discussion, they discovered that the only song that they had in common was, oh yes, we have no bananas. And they marched through the streets of Newry singing, oh yes, we have no bananas.
Bananas. I hear Maura laughing in the background there as well. Yes, it's...
And there was a book of it. So that song arrived for the Catholic community into a time of, oh yes, we have no bananas.
Oh yes, I have no bananas. Indeed. Timing is everything.
More fitting than Kevin Barry or whatever. So.
Were you very sort of actively involved in all during that time, protest marching, or were you mainly like writing about it, making it known to the wider public, or a bit of both? What was your involvement in that scene?
I was a reporter working for the Irish Press, which was the best news service at the time, and they used to send all the northern guys to cover the Troubles because we were more streetwise than guys from further south. And it was wonderful because with the press card you had a sort of a neutral position, and you split as easily from one side of the fence to the other, and it was a remarkable time. So I covered an awful lot of the Troubles for the press, and then laterally for the Irish Times, and it was. I would have been recording the stories of the time rather than throwing the actual story.
Yeah. Because the next song I wanted to play on the show, also a deeply moving, politically based song. And not all your songs are like that, of course. I mean, there are a couple more that I want to play as well later on. But Peter Pan and Me from your debut album, I believe. An absolutely wonderful song as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that song and the inspiration behind it?
Well, again, it was I'd be covering the Troubles during the days out in the streets, and then I'd go back to the hotel at night, back to the Europe Hotel, the most Bond hotel in Europe, actually, in the world at the time. And you'd be doing one story for the paper, and you would be keeping it as factual and as balanced and as neutral and as accurate as possible. But then setting up the hotel room, you'd be inclined, I would write then a song maybe, or a bit of poetry. And that song came out of the very, very dark days of the 70s, when I think there was a bit of despair in my heart when I was writing it, watching the way things were going and feeling that.
I think as a documentary style song, it's very accurate and very poignant. Almost like a history lesson, if you don't mind me saying that. What's the great line? We believe in things like justice, truth, and freedom, and they end up being bombed, buried in the ashes of the society that you were living in at the time.
There's a slightly despairing feel to it, but
it's that song. But as I said, an important song. You have to write those as well. As you said, you were documenting a time of deep despair and anxiety for people.
Peter Pan being the little boy who never grew up, I still had the dreams of better days to come, and it was sort of based on that.
It's a beautiful song. I'm going to play this. Sit back, folks, as the song says, Pull Up a Chair and Join Peter Pan and Me. This is a fine, fine song from Mickey MacConnell. Who plays the whistle in this? Is that you?
It's a chap called Brendan Monaghan. It was recorded up in with Colin Sands up in West River, and I think Rod McVeigh is on it, and Brendan Monaghan, and a lady Lula Toole is on cello.
Wow, you have great musicians on this. This is a great song. Sit back, folks, for 5 minutes and have a listen to this wonderful song. Again, reflecting the times that were. Mickey MacConnell, Peter Pan and Me.
We knew we faced the power that comes from money when we marched against the empire's mighty scheme. They were armed with special powers and legislation, while we were armed with youth and foolish dreams. But it seemed so right in Derry all that summer when we took them on and built our barricades. We were an army dressed in faded jeans and sandals, too young and full of pride to be afraid. And we believed in things like justice, truth and freedom. And we believed we had a right to liberty. And we believed that we could build a new tomorrow. That's how it seemed to Peter Pan. We soon learned the truth of street rebellion as that city crumbled round us stone by stone, betrayed by those who promised they would help us. Against tanks, troops, guns, we stood alone. For revolution is no game for foolish dreamers, for dreamers never know the price that must be paid. And before long we learned all power comes from a rifle, and we learned to bleed and die and be afraid. And soon no one talked of justice, truth or freedom, and soon no one gave one damn for liberty. For all we hoped was that we might go on surviving. We grew up fast, young Peter Pan. So the empire dealt us death and fear and prison. There's no mercy from that military machine. So our street kids swapped their faded jeans and sandals for hoods, guns with loaded magazines. Now the years have wrought their cruel retribution, and our brothers and our sisters bear the pain as both sides strive for their military solution. And the politicians play their murderous games, and among the dead lie justice, truth and freedom. And among the dead lie hope and liberty. So if you care enough to mourn brave new tomorrows, pull up a chair, join Peter Pan and me.
Yeah, that gets me every time, Mickey. It's just, it never goes old for me, that song. I know it's to you it might be, a dated time, but you say so much in it that is relevant to today. I don't know if you look at it like that or not.
Yeah.
There's a lot in there
It's
to do with today's situation.
it's a documentary piece basically, and again, I'd like to think that it doesn't take a particular side, one side or another. It's just factually, it's a little piece of journalism with music attached, basically. And
Well said.
it was
sure is.
actually always reminds me of my dear departed brother Sean, God rest him. Owned.
Yeah,
It was Sean's favourite song, and he always asked me to sing it. So dedicated to Owen and to Dee and to Sean's memory.
Absolutely. Oh, I know Owen and Dee are watching this, and we'll think about Sean tonight. I want to talk to you a little bit about, you live in Listowel now, and you have been for quite a few years at this stage. John B. Kane, talk to me about your good friend, playwright and poet, and all-round nice man, I believe, John B. Kane.
John B was one of these people who he has put rural Ireland on the map. When he wrote his first big play, Side, it was rejected by the Abbey, and it was more or less sneered at by the establishment in Dublin. But then the local drama group put it on in the amateur theatric thing, and it went through that circuit, and ultimately made all the critics and the high and mighty eat their words. And from that himself, with the help of his wife Mary, embarked on this wonderful, wonderful career, documenting the lives of the ordinary country people, and the Kerry people in particular, and did something that very few others, probably nobody before him did, was that he wrote very strong, powerful rules for women. And he attacked the church, and he attacked the plight of women, and brought it to the fore. And I think every woman in Ireland and every parish in Ireland owes him a debt of gratitude for the stand he took at the time. And he was a very, very important man. Maybe a man a bit before his time, but thankfully his spirit and his legacy is still is being carried on to a huge extent by his son Billy, who runs the bar now. And it's a great gathering place. Billy has a pub theatre that's been going on there for 21 years.
Still going.
Where we do some of the John B stuff and songs and poetry and whatever. So the legacy lives on, thanks to Billy. And
Thanks to Billy, yeah.
John
You knew
B.
him well, did you?
I knew him very well. And he, in fact, when he died, the family asked me to write a song in his honour, and I was very delighted to be asked to do that. And yeah, I was fond of him, and he was fond of me, and
He was a fan, I'd say. I'd say he was a fan of your music and your work, I'd say, was he?
I'd like to think so. I
Yeah.
know he used to come down when I was playing in the bar, and he'd sit and we'd talk and have a few pints together.
Yeah.
But John B didn't need to be a fan of anybody's because the world was at his feet. And
That's for sure.
he certainly did not need to admire anybody because of his own accomplishments.
That's for sure. Claire Martin, Kerry MacConnell.
Well, daughters.
I have a daughter. You have a daughter called Claire and a daughter called Kerry. I love that.
I have.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Tell me the names of your other children. They're probably watching. Say
Two
hello to
daughters.
them.
Oh, that's
Two
it.
daughters.
Two daughters and a mad Labradoodle called Fudge, who is greatly devoted to moral life.
Labradoodle, is he there? No.
He's there. He's
Somewhere.
lying at my feet here. A cursed dog.
His music keeps coming out.
He's a music lover, Maura said. He keeps going out anytime I start singing.
If Maura wants to come in there and say hello, she's welcome. She's not too camera shy. Maura, don't be shy.
No, I'm fine here, thanks.
No, you're all right there. Okay, stay in the background, so that's fine. Yeah, if one thing, a lot of people know you from Only Our Rivers Run Free, and rightly so, brilliant song. But then, tell us that the ballad of Little and Aldi happened, came out of the blue one day, and there's over 1 million views of it on YouTube now, and it's just after taking off here, and it's just an amazing, funny piece of writing. What inspired that song?
I was looking at the sort of the songs I write, and
Yes.
Mother of God, they're so depressing and miserable. Like, sometimes just you need something a bit lighter. And going back again to my dad writing the sort of the comic parodies and whatever, I always had a fascination for comic songs, but conscious of the fact that they're the most difficult thing in the world to write. Because when you record them, it's okay to write them, but it's not okay to record them. Because when you put them on an album, they're funny the first time they're played, they're funny the second time they're played, and then on the album, that the track that always is skipped on an album. So I decided that the only thing to do is, if I was going to write a funny song, was to make it so complex that you'd have to listen to it quite a few times before you'd get everything that's in it. A song about politicians that embrace that sort of philosophy. And then again, the Little D Aldi, Kempney, and basically, I adore the commonplace. I adore the ordinary things. Who needs moons and dunes and clear crystal fountains and all that sort of rubbish? Like the Little D Aldis and the big sort.
The Littles and the Aldis, yeah. Well,
So I decided to try and see get as many bits and pieces into it as I could. And I went up to Little and Aldi, we were both of them here, and walked around to make sure that everything that's mentioned in the song.
You did.
So that's what the song came about. It's just a bit of fun, and because it's commonplace, and because it is what it is, people just adore it.
Absolutely. I'm going to give it a spin now. I can't pass a Little or Aldi these days anymore. After hearing the song, without going, no more Aldi, Little the Aldi, Little the Aldi D for me. I can't. So thanks for that.
I certainly could not claim it's high art, but it's
fabulous. No, it's a fabulous song. And certainly, if Only Our Rivers Run Free isn't the one that people remember you for, it's going to be this one, sir. Whether you like it or not, I'm going to play it, folks. If you haven't heard this masterpiece, here we go. The Ballad of Little and Aldi, from the one and only Mickey MacConnell.
Portable generator. So that's where the song comes from. Well, no wife, she broke her ankle when she tumbled off the bike, leaving me to do the housework, a job I never liked.
And doing the weekly shopping seemed a dreadful chore to me, till I discovered little dee Aldi, little dee Aldi, little dee dee. Now I just can't wait for Thursdays when the specials go on view. I'm the first man to the trolleys, I'm the first man in the queue. For now I know what women mean about retail therapy. It's little dee Aldi, little dee Aldi, little dee Aldi, little dee dee. It's angle grinders and black puddings and a pot of German jam, a lump of hairy bacon and a wetsuit from Japan, and a pack of streaky rashers, a crate of Russian stout, and a portable generator just in case the lights go out. Alloy wheels and windscreen wipers, and a bag of rooster spuds, an inflatable rubber dinghy to help survive the floods. Spanners, sockets, and fish fingers, they're so cheap they're damn near free. At little dee Aldi, little dee Aldi, little dee Aldi, little dee dee. Now there's welding rods and prime organic beef to make a hearty stew, a hiking staff and spiky boots for climbing Kathmandu, big heads of curly cabbage to make you eat your fill, sledgehammers and bananas and a lovely cordless drill. And there's hatchets and hamburgers and there's tins of beans and peas, and a petrol-driven chainsaw for cutting bits of trees. Strimmers, saber saws and sausages, computers and TVs. At little dee Aldi, little dee Aldi, little dee Aldi, little dee dee. Now the wife has gone ballistic, marriage heading for the rocks. With her crutches and her shopping bag, now she's hobbling round the shops. And she's cut up all me credit cards, I'm sad as sad can be. No more Aldi, little dee Aldi, no more little dee dee for me. For the shed is full of plastic shit I didn't really want. And the garden's full of furniture and the house is full of plants. And I'm living in the doghouse, Rover, Fido, Shep and me, because of Aldi, little dee Aldi, little dee Aldi, little dee dee. So no more angle grinders nor black puddings, no more pots of German jam, no lumps of hairy bacon, no more wetsuits from Japan, no packs of streaky rashers, and I'll have to do without another portable generator just in case the lights go out. No alloy wheels, no windscreen wipers, no bags of rooster spuds, no inflatable rubber dinghies to help survive the floods. For I'm living in the doghouse, I'm as sad can be. No more Aldi, little dee Aldi, no more little dee dee for me.
Magic. That ballad of Little and Aldi. That, yeah, that's the one. That's the one, Mickey. Well done. That's absolutely fabulous.
Certainly that, but it's amazing what makes people laugh, really.
Yeah, absolutely is. So many, like over 1 million views on YouTube as well, which is astounding. And rightly so. I mean, what a funny song. What a great song. So well written.
Well,
the shed is full of plastic shit. I never really
it
want.
certainly reminds all of us, I think, that play and go out and are involved in music, that sometimes it's a mistake to take yourself too damn seriously. And that people need a laugh as well. They need the lighter side of stuff. And, it's a shame to take yourselves too seriously.
One of the best bits of advice I ever got too. Take yourself seriously enough not to take yourself too seriously was the line I got, and here I am, a professional YouTuber. So yeah, excuse me. Have you ever co-written songs with people, Mickey? Have you tried that or over the years,
yes.
or is it you have?
Yes, with Cormac, and my brother Cormac, who lives up in Clare. Cormac is an excellent songwriter. Has a wonderful way with words. His most famous one, his best one, would be that Christmas in the Trenches. You know,
yes, of course.
Routine on Christmas Day, which is an excellent song.
Amazing.
So he'd get an idea and he'd put something together and he'd bring it to me and we'd sit down, and I'd be like the guy who would have to knock it into shape and make it stage ready. So he would present me with an uncut diamond, and my job would be to do the nuts and bolts on it and then something with the music. So we would have worked on 4 or 5 things, and quite successfully, and fortunately seamless. sort of seamless where you wouldn't know who had written what. But that used to actually happen us when we were working in Dublin. There was three of us in journalism. Sean, God rest him, who we're talking about, Cormac and myself. And we were known as the Brothers Grimm, or the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the three of us were working in the Irish press at one stage. But I remember Cormac was working for a magazine, and he'd be maybe off somewhere, and something he shouldn't be, and he'd ring me up and he'd say, "Would you write a column for me?" And I often wrote a column from, and he would do the same for me, and nobody would know the difference as to which.
Wow.
So,
as to who actually wrote. Very nice. That's great. So, and apart from family, then would you have written with sort of outsiders as such? Would you have done that or tried that or?
no,
No.
sort of. No, it never. I never had the opportunity really to write with anybody. I remember talking at some length about this with Kieran Goss. Kieran produced both of my albums. Kieran, wonderful man,
Amazing.
a great friend of mine, and we threatened to do it once, but we never actually got around.
Never actually got it. Yeah. I see. And as far as you seem a bit of a small bit of a guitar fan, I noticed you played a Martin in one of the songs there, and you're also a great man for the Yamaha guitars. Do you have a few guitars in your collection, or do you use one predominantly, or?
I have about 4 or 5. Yeah, I use a Martin, a little D35 all the time.
Gorgeous.
Very
Yeah.
old, 1960s one, but sounds good.
Gorgeous.
And I have a collection of vintage Yamahas, which are nice, a bit punky, but special sound for them.
All the more reason I have to come to your house in Stone now. Just mainly for those guitars. Have a look. Give them a
And
tingling.
I've had some fun as well. I bought the new Yamaha, which has the motherboard in it with the built-in chorus and reverb, which is interesting.
What do you mean it's built into it? Into the guitar itself? Into the electronics?
The electronics are built into the guitar.
Yeah.
There's a speaker attached to the back of the guitar, so it turns the guitar into a sort of a speaker.
I've seen them, yeah.
When you get that and put a third-hand capo on it, you know about the capos.
I do, yeah. I was going to ask you about your Kaiser shortcut capos. I see this next song we're going to play. I'm going to play the song Band of Brothers, and you're using a shortcut capo. And yeah.
Well, at this stage of my life, and I'm not the greatest guitar player in the world, but I have to utilize all the dirty tricks I possibly can in an effort to try.
Same myself.
Because every night I go out, there's young, fresh, bright kids, and they're brilliant. They're really, really good. And so I resort to dirty tricks. And writing your own songs is great as well, because nobody can tell you you're doing them wrong.
Exactly. That's very well said indeed. Songwriting aside, for anybody who might be a journalist watching this, if you were to give a younger journalist some advice these days about how to do the job or whatever, what advice would you give a young journalist, or indeed a young writer, if I was to ask you?
I think the first advice in this day and age was, I came from print journalism, from the broadsheets.
Yeah.
Stay away from print journalism because it's dead largely.
Right.
Now technology has taken over from the print journalism. But basically, all you need to do to be a good journalist is to remember the 5 W's. And the one other question. And the 5 W's are who, what, when, where, why, and the killer question, how much. If you can answer those 5 questions, you're a journalist.
What was the last one, Mickey?
How much?
How much? Yes, the 5, and then the most important one.
Yes.
Yeah. How much are you paying? A bit like the music industry too. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Whichever. Any plans to record again, or would you go down that road?
No plans.
No plans.
You know, I probably in my 70 plus years, I have about 30 songs that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
I've written probably about 600, but apart
Have
from
you? Wow.
the published, they're dross. So I prefer to have less and be quite proud of them than have too many and be embarrassed by them. So if I were to do an album of, say, 11 or 12 tracks, I would have to write 25 or 26 so that I could discard the ones that I wasn't happy with.
But you'd probably be quite self-critical then, coming from a writer's background as well, would you?
Yeah.
Would you tear up more than you'd put out, would you?
I would.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, it isn't.
I prefer to write less and be happy with it than write too much and be embarrassed by it.
Tell us about Gypsy Band of Brothers. I'm going to play this song in a moment. Gorgeous too, which are half capo.
Again, it was wanting to write something about growing up and growing up on the banks of Lough Erne. It was, as I say, an idyllic childhood with the sort of bohemian parents, and I felt I should actually just mark it. So that's where it comes from.
And it's from where is it from? There's a festival, the Patrick O'Keefe in Castle Island. Looked like.
Which one? Yeah, probably the
I
Paul.
think it was, yeah. And is this your vintage Yamaha? Is this one of your this lovely guitar here in this I'm looking at?
That could even be the. Let me have a look.
That's the red. Yeah.
That's the one we're talking about. I think the one with the motherboard built into it.
Ah, yes, the motherboard, the mothership. Well, I'm going to play the song and we'll come back. Sorry, go ahead.
It's the transacoustic Yamaha. Yeah.
Transacoustic. Okay, well, it's gorgeous sounding guitar, and
It's
so
not. That's just the sound of the guitar.
yeah, this is just mic'd up now. Yeah,
It's its own electrics. It's the internal electrics.
it's great. So, Band of Brothers, about growing up, hanging around with the brothers, and the devilment he got up to, stuff like that.
That's it.
All right, let's have a listen. I'll see you in a few minutes for a bit more chat, Mickey. Folks, check this out. Lovely song. Gypsy Band of Brothers, Mickey MacConnell.
Because another birthday's come and gone, and there won't be many more. My mind's gone wandering back the years that paved my lifetime's road to those endless sun-drenched boyhood days in the place it all began, with my gypsy band of brothers by the lovely River Erne. And I don't wear rose-tinted glasses, so I swear that this is true. The sun had always seemed to shine, the skies were always blue. For the Dolans and the Dorseys, the Maguires and McGurns, and my gypsy band of brothers by the lovely River Erne. Now a lifetime lies between us since the day I went away, while the salmon keeps returning, a part of me remains, lost in endless sun-drenched boyhood days in the place it all began, with my gypsy band of brothers by the lovely River Erne. Now my mother taught the primary school, while my father ran the shop. It was a home of love and laughter, where the music never stopped. And when evening stars came twinkling out, all the neighbors would arrive, and the music and their folklore kept our heritage alive. And we snared the rabbits in the crockin', captured tadpoles in the bog, and went roaming round the foreshore with fishing lines and dogs. And the dark and dangerous days to come were but lessons yet to learn by my gypsy band of brothers by the lovely River Erne. Now our one and only sister was the first of us to go from a cruel and evil sickness that was terrible and slow. And it was standing by her deathbed that I first learned how to pray, when I begged the God of mercy to allow her slip away. My brother Sean too soon then followed, long, long before his time. We thought he'd be the last man standing, the last of us in line. He left without one word of warning as the leaves began to fall. The kindest and the bravest and the best one of us all. Now a lifetime lies between us since the day I went away, while the salmon keeps returning, a part of me remained, lost in endless sun-drenched boyhood days, in the place it all began, with my gypsy band of brothers by the lovely River Erne. Now there are 3 surviving brothers now who are left to carry on my mother's treasury of poetry, my father's legacy of song. And though our lives have led us separate ways, and we've travelled near and far, that shared patchwork of our boyhood is what made us who we are. And I don't want to go to heaven, for I've been already there, and an eternity of piety is more than I could bear. But if God might show me mercy, He'll allow me to return to join my gypsy band of brothers by the lovely River Erne. Yes, if God might grant me mercy, He'll allow me to return, rejoin my gypsy band of brothers and my beloved River Erne. Thank you very much.
An eternity of piety. Who would need it? Who'd want it? That's a great line.
Yes, piety is more.
Fantastic. Sorry, say again, Nicky?
An eternity of piety is more than I could bear. That line always
That's
makes me
right.
laugh, actually, in the middle of a song, which is,
Yeah.
which is strange to sing a sad song in the middle of it to get a laugh. Yeah.
I know, sometimes that's it. Sean, a man called Sean Neal was asking ask Mickey what he does when he sees the audience drifting away and brings them back. Parodies. I think he even has one for only our rivers. I'm not sure if you mean. Do you know Sean?
Yeah, I would incline to. I would never have a set list when I'd look to do a gig. I would sort of see what works and then be inclined to go that way. Fortunately, because I don't do that much sort of serious book club things, I'm rarely in the position where I have to try and write.
But of course, you have plenty of parodies and plenty of stories to enthrall the audience, I suppose, between songs and during songs, and no shortage of those, I'm sure.
No.
It's a great comment here, which is also Mickey has been one of the greatest influences on my life, a true friend since the 80s, and the man who woke me up to Kieran Halpin, Mick Hanley, and a wealth of clever, intelligent songwriters. Lovely comment. Thank you very much for that, and that's very nice to read. And Kerry McConnell says, get him, tell you about the time he was singing that song and John Bees and Billy Keane produced everything listed in the song from the kitchen. That'll be... That's the ballad. That's an older comment from the Ballad of Little and Aldi, yeah.
That Little the Aldi song. On the last night of the Pubs Theatre, Billy had organised everything that's mentioned in the song was produced, dragged up, piled up in front of me on the stage, including the dog and the portable generator and the inflatable.
No way.
It was a wonderful night. Yeah. He caught me right.
That's fantastic. Thanks very much, Gary, for that that reminder. That's a great comment. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Mickey. It's the hour flew by, and I hope that old storm dies down there now in Listowel and things calm a little bit. Thank you for being with us tonight and for sharing your songs and your stories.
Thank you for having me along, and it's such a pleasure. You'll have to come down to Listowel. We'll get together, slip into something more comfortable like a pint glass.
I will.
And a few hours talking capos and dirty tricks.
Capos, dirty tricks, guitars, and Deirdre Gallagher will be on the agenda.
Indeed.
That's right.
I look forward to it.
Absolutely. I'll say goodbye to the folks here. You can hang on here, Mickey, for a moment after backstage, and we'll have a little natter after the show. Is that okay? Thanks for being here, Mickey MacConnell. Best of luck, and I'll talk to you very soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Dahi.
There you are, folks. The brilliant, wonderful Mickey MacConnell, mighty songwriter based in Listowel. Lovely to have him on the show. Absolute pleasure. And thank you all very much for your lovely comments and for being with us here tonight. Please hit that subscribe button down there and help me build this whole channel. Maybe share this video later on if you like what Mickey does, get his songs out there, get the channel known. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. All the great comments that we got as well. Much appreciated. Here again at the weekend with Ali, and I'll be doing another Raving with Rua. And until then, look after yourselves, stay safe.